Hello there. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of the show. If you've been hanging out for the last 2 hours, appreciate you. If you're just joining us, welcome. 719-247-1313 is the text and the phone line. If you'd like to give your thoughts on any of the day's topics. But first and foremost, I just appreciate you tuning in whatever way you may be doing it, whether it's on air, online, through the app, or you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, X. Twitter and X are the same thing. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Let's start off the hour, as we tend to do, with the three stories that are driving the show. All right, let's see if after a couple of sleeps, Sean Payton is a little bit more okay with what he saw on Saturday.
I'm glad it happens in a joint practice. You don't want it to happen in week 10 in a game that matters. So clearly for us, there was plenty to coach off of, and there were a lot of reps to coach off of.
That would be a no. He was not better about what he saw on Saturday, and you heard him mention the joint practice as well. He was not pleased. In fact, remember when he said there are about 14 things that he's peeved off at? He added 3 from the end of his post-game press conference to the time they arrived back in Denver. But he gets to the silver lining of this. It's not out of bounds. What they did on Saturday, especially the ones for the Denver Broncos, is worth criticizing. It was not up to, forget my standard, wasn't up to their head coach's standard. It was overall, save for Nick Bonito. You're good, Nick Bonito. Not talking about you. You keep dreaming about how much money the Broncos are going to pay you because every time you step out on the field, you earn it. Everybody else that's supposed to help the Denver Broncos win a Super Bowl really didn't play well. But Sean Payton got to the heart of the matter, which is better now than later. If Saturday was some sort of reality check that in order for the Broncos to actually be a Super Bowl contender, they have to play like it. They can't just be like knighted, like Iron Man knighted Spider-Man and made him an Avenger. Like, you got to do the work. So if that was the issue, if they just were overconfident going against backups, if they just didn't have their same level of focus and execution, whatever the reason is, that kind of an effort, that kind of a performance will get them destroyed. That type of a performance came up against Baltimore last year. Performances like that cost the Denver Broncos every single time last year. I don't remember one game where the Broncos won and I came away saying they didn't play well. This team is not at the level that they can put it on cruise control and win games during the regular season. So if that was a lesson that needed to be taught to them, thank the San Francisco 49ers. And thank the fact that it's preseason week 1 and it doesn't count as opposed to during the season. But much to work on going. It certainly made the game against Arizona more interesting, hasn't it? Let's go to story number 2.
Going forward, I think one of the things we're really, really going to monitor the snap counts that he has in a game. Just seeing if we can create more duration throughout a season.
That was Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. Interesting thoughts there on Peyton Zadroik, who today was named to the Lombardi Trophy watch list. That is now the guy who is in the middle of the defensive line, and earlier, I think it was late last week, the guy in the middle of the offensive line that have both been named to postseason award watch lists, which I think in essence is my argument for why Air Force is going to have a bounce back year. I think they have the ability with both defensive lines to control the line of scrimmage, which is so important when you're running the type of playing the type of game, not just offensively, but, the whole idea is to play keep away, to control the clock, to control possessions. You got to control the line of scrimmage to be able to do that. But what's interesting is Troy Calhoun trying to find a way to ensure that Peyton Zadroik will be available and be close to his best. Because what he's saying is, I'd rather have Peyton Zadroik for a little bit less per game, but ultimately have him for more games. That's how important of a player. So he's giving you insight into how important of a player Peyton Zadroik is, but it will be something to watch out for this year, certainly. But you could tell, extremely important to what Air Force wants to do this season. And they want to have him for the entirety of the season, even if it's at a lower, so to say, pitch count than we come to expect. But you need him in every game because that one critical third down, you're going to want Peyton Zadroik on that field. And it could come up anytime between the Bucknell game and the CSU game or a game after that. So very well deserved for Peyton Zadroik to get some preseason love. And certainly his head coach understands how important he is to their success. He's looking to try and do some different things to make sure he stays on the field and stays as close to 100% as he can. Story number 3 will stick with college football, but not on the field here. John Mateer, who, if you're just tuning in or just starting to lock into college football season, he is the great hope of the once proud Oklahoma Sooner football program. They brought him in from Washington State, not dissimilar to what Miami did with Cam Ward. Something's going well there in Pullman that they're developing these quarterbacks that these major schools want to poach. But the idea was you bring in John Mateer, brought in his offensive coordinator as well to complement Brent Venables being a brilliant defensive mind, and that would get Oklahoma back to where they expect to be. Well, John Mateer kind of stepped into it. Couple of Venmo transactions were unearthed by the social media sleuths in which he paid a teammate of his money for what he described, because Venmo gives you the ability to tell the person that you're sending money to what it is for. And he put sports betting. Allow me to repeat that. This happened back in 2022, but John Mateer was still a Division I college quarterback. He sent his teammate money for what he described as sports betting on a social media account and did not make the transaction private. That's a problem based on the agreed upon rules of the NCAA. Sports betting, that's a no-no. And here basically is John Mateer admitting to sports betting. Is he not? Is this not a blatant admission? No, not so fast. Because Mateer took to social media this afternoon to say that it was not for sports betting. Sports betting is code for something. It is an inside joke that is so detailed that he even put the name of a game that occurred the day before in his inside joke. In parentheses on one of the payments, he put USC versus UCLA. I understand that part of the idea of an inside joke is that other people that aren't on the inside don't get it. And I got to tell you, this might be the greatest joke in the history of inside jokes because I don't get it. Because to me, it seems like you did a really dumb thing and now you're coming up with a really dumb reason why you did a dumb thing. I actually think that him owning up and saying, "Oh yeah, I made a bet with my buddy on a game." That's a problem, and that lacks some intelligence that you would do that given the position that you were in. But what would be lacking more intelligence is that if you called something like paying your buddy for the pizza he bought you last night and calling it something that will make alarm bells go ringy dingy dingy, that's worse. What's the old saying? The cover-up is worse than the crime. The cover-up is dumber than the crime. It's bad enough that when we thought you were sports betting, now you're saying that you're calling something that would not get you in trouble. You're calling it something that would get you in trouble. I, for one, I'm not a judge or I'm not on the jury. And if I were called onto the jury in the John Mateer case, I would give them every reason to excuse me because I would say I've already been on the record on my radio show saying that I don't believe a word he's saying. But in this capacity, I can do that. I don't believe him. Now, what it seems to me is like a wager between two buddies. That's a problem. And there are rules against that. And he'll probably face some sort of discipline. This has like 1 game suspension written all over it. Oklahoma opens with Illinois State. But I kind of think the ridicule that he will receive, has already received, and will continue to receive at every stadium he goes to, perhaps in multiple classes at Norman, on social media, is kind of punishment enough because he's being labeled as kind of a doofus. But I don't think that's going to be all he's going to deal with. Nice try on the whole, it's not what you think, it was an inside joke. That is about as lame of an explanation as I have ever heard. But if this is found to be something more significant and this goes deeper, I mean, this guy is supposed to lead Oklahoma back. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if anybody is buying what John Mateer is selling. I'm not. I'm not going to Venmo him. Like, you could just make it private. I just don't. Anyway, kids, right? 719-24-7, 1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. The show rolls on next. Even the most kind media members, when it comes to the Denver Broncos, cannot deny what has been the biggest storyline of the Broncos training camp. The offense has struggled. Bo Nix has struggled. And today it was reported that he did. Now, today is also being blamed on Kay Adams, one of the biggest proponents of the Denver Broncos in the national media. That perhaps many Denver Broncos were not, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because in the NBA, when we see that Suni Lee or one of the Jenners is on, we always talk about players elevating their game. But in football, it's the reverse. So today apparently is on Kay Adams, but the word from Broncos camp again, the offense is struggling. And there will come a point where it's not, the defense always gets the better of the, like Sean Payton talked about it today. They're not quite halfway there, but pretty soon they're going to be halfway there. And the dynamic has to shift a little bit. And this idea that, well, it's just the Broncos defense, it's the best defense. Okay, but it's not the best defense by a mile. You think it's the only tough defense Bo Nix is going to face this year? I talked about this. Look at even the Titans present some issues for the Broncos offense. Now, I don't think enough to ultimately win the game. But some of the best defenses are what the Broncos are going to face this season. The offenses are kind of a different story. And it's why there's a chance for this Broncos defense to maybe be the best. They're going to feast on a lot of teams that they will face, including the Cam Ward-led Tennessee Titans in Week 1. It doesn't ultimately matter until Week 1 rolls around. But it's a trend. It's a thing that is happening at training camp that is worth monitoring. I talked about this yesterday. It's not that the Bo Nix you saw on Saturday or the Bo Nix that you're seeing out at training camp is worse than the guy that was out there last year. He might actually be better in some ways. But the problem is defenses know how to handle him a little bit better. The growth is on the other side of the football, the greater growth. And the question about this season is, can Bo Nix progress, improve enough to overcome that? A lot of quarterbacks don't. And it's why it seems like they regress in their second year. He may not regress, but it's not going to look as good because defenses are now catching up. And the book is starting to be written about Bo Nix, and it is pressure him and keep him in the pocket, and you will win that down. 49ers defense did a good job of that on Saturday. We'll see if Arizona presents some of the same issues for the Broncos this week. I wouldn't put Bo Nix on any list of quarterbacks under the most pressure because I don't take some of this talk around the Denver Broncos seriously. If you do, then there's a lot of pressure on Bo Nix to be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. So I wouldn't put that pressure on him, but everybody else is. So maybe he is one of the quarterbacks under the most pressure this season. I think C.J. Stroud is on that list. And I think the guy who has some news out about him today is on that list. I think Jordan Love is on that list. Jordan Love having surgery on his thumb, or a thumb procedure. He's expected to be good by week 1. But now Jordan Love's. I think that the Packers could win that division. The opportunity is there for Green Bay to seize that division. Minnesota is starting the youngest quarterback in the NFL this year, in J.J. McCarthy, who is coming off a season-ending injury. And in many ways, this will be his rookie year. It's like that Ben Simmons thing. Is he really a rookie, even though he didn't play in his rookie year, but he's still around the team? I'll let you discuss that amongst your friends. But the fact of the matter is J.J. McCarthy has 0 NFL starts and is the youngest quarterback in the league right now among the starters. Detroit is losing some of their brain power, so to speak, with Ben Johnson going to Chicago and Aaron Glenn going to the Jets. We saw how that impacted Philadelphia. And then Chicago is going to take some straightening out. The damage that has already been done to Caleb Williams by previous coaches, Ben Johnson has to kind of undo. So the opportunity is there for the Green Bay Packers in that division to take it. And they have a chance, too, to, maybe make the road to the Super Bowl go through Green Bay. And how significant would that be? But they're going to need Jordan Love to not be this Toyota-thon quarterback. Like, they're going to need him game 1 through game 17 to be a consistent elite performer. I think he, along with Justin Herbert, are the quarterbacks with the most pressure on them this upcoming season. Because I think for a lot of people, like Justin Herbert, if it ends in another playoff route, because C.J. Stroud could have some pressure on him for this season just to have a better season than the previous one, but the guy won a playoff game again. With Justin Herbert, I think it would probably be Jordan Love 1, Justin Herbert 2. But Justin Herbert's got to deliver this year. I think they'll be in the postseason, even with the injury to Rashawn Slater. Justin Herbert's got to come through. Got to come through in a playoff game. I would rank Love 1, Herbert 2. Again, based on what other people are saying, would the next guy be Bo Nix? Might be. They're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. I mean, he's definitely on that list. Now that his head coach says he'll be one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, is Joe Burrow under any pressure? Is Lamar Jackson? Not until the playoffs. Yeah, Bo Nix is up there. Not above Jordan Love or Justin Herbert, certainly. Might be third on that list. His pressure, a lot of the pressure is being put on by his own head coach. Which as a coaching strategy, it's fine. Like, it's fine to be one of the quarterbacks with the most pressure on you. It's as long as you deliver. As long as that pressure creates diamonds, as they say. I think that's what Sean Payton's trying to do. He believes in Bo Nix, but he's going to lean on him a little bit. How will Bo Nix respond? But the story that got me on this was, again, Jordan Love needing a procedure on his thumb, but he will be ready for week 1 in case you are a Packers fan or fan of anyone in the NFC North, or Jordan Love's your fantasy quarterback. Want to bring that information to you. Just here to help. 719-24-7-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Well-deserved honor for Jonas Fjellberg of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks being named to the USL Team of the Week. Had a goal and an assist in the Switchbacks victory this weekend over Oakland Roots, their third straight win in league play, fourth win in a row across all competitions. And he's another one of those guys that, when the Switchbacks lose a Ronaldo Damas, a guy that was responsible for so many of their goals last year, when you lose a guy like that, you expect it's kind of like that Moneyball line of we can recreate him in the aggregate. Now, they expected, obviously, Justin Dillon to do a fair amount of that work, and he ends up leaving the team. But you look at Quincy Huerman, you look at Jonas Fjellberg, you look at Juan Tejada. These are the guys that I think the Switchbacks were banking on to elevate their game and get more opportunities, right? When you have one bona fide goal scorer, one number 9 that's just kind of always being looked to, it can be freeing for a lot of other players. Like, now I have got a chance. And it's not that there was bad blood or anything like that. It's just, it's the same thing happens when your best player or your most productive player goes down, gets hurt. So other guys go, okay, now it's my opportunity. I got a chance here. And I think that's what the Switchbacks were banking on just a little bit. Then they get kind of hit with the surprise of Justin Dillon leaving the team, and they've had to kind of scramble. But you look at the streak they're on over this last month, and it's Jonas Fjellberg is scoring goals, Juan Tejada is, Quincy Huerman is, Marco Micheletto is, and now they're starting to get that. Maybe later than they had hoped, but they're starting to get it. And I still think that this team is going to add before this season is over, and add someone that can help that effort in terms of scoring goals. So we'll see about that, but it's becoming a regular thing. Matt Mahoney, I mean, what am I talking about? Quincy and Jonas and all these guys. Matt Mahoney had a brace last week. So they're getting goals from the guys that they hope they would get goals from, and then they're getting goals from guys that you don't necessarily expect. That's the good indication of how well things are going for the hometown club. And now they're starting a stretch here where they are playing the vast majority of the next month and a half at Widener Field. And I talked about it on the broadcast on Saturday with Roland. We always do this trade-off where early on in the season, the league doesn't give the Switchbacks a lot of home games. When the Sky Sox were around, that was the deal. These leagues don't want to be playing in Colorado. And they do the same thing with the Rockies. Like, they don't want to be in Colorado early on in the spring. It's bad news. It's unpredictable. But the trade-off is you're going to get a run of games or matches at home at a more important part of the season. If I'm being honest about it, I know everyone counts as potentially 3 points. But now the urgency from all these teams has ramped up now. We're into August. You got less than 2 months left in the regular season. And for the Switchbacks to be, starting to get it going and be facing a long homestand, perfect timing. So Jonas Fjellberg being named to the USL Team of the Week. By the way, programming note, he'll be on this radio program tomorrow. So looking forward to that conversation with him. Switchbacks home on Saturday night, taking on Orange County SC. It'll be a 7 o'clock kick. Get your tickets, switchbacksfc.com. What else? We'll see what happens. The big lasting story here is John Mateer. See if anyone's buying this inside joke nonsense. Oh, and Taylor Swift. When I know you're waiting patiently for this. Taylor Swift was on the Kelsey Bros pod, whatever it's called, and has a new album out or coming out or whatever. So that's the big news of the day. I'm sorry I buried the lead. I waited too long. I should have led with it, and I didn't. Why don't they call it the Kelsey Bros pod? I feel like that's a better name than what they got. The full NBA schedule is coming out this week, but we've gotten some teases for some of the higher profile games for the Denver Nuggets. And look, we don't do the thing with the Nuggets or the Avalanche schedule like we do the Broncos. Right? And there are a million reasons for that at the top of the list. Everybody plays everybody, and it's a much longer season, many more games to worry about. But we do care about certain dates. Right? In the league, it's opening night, it's Christmas. And then for each individual team, if they don't get one or the other, or even if they do, the next thing is, okay, when are we opening our season? When is our home opener? Well, we're getting some of that information. Nuggets not on opening night. Thought they would have been a great match for OKC as they're raising their banner, considering that other than Indiana, certainly in the West, the Nuggets put up a better fight than anybody else on OKC. But Kevin Durant, the drama of him watching Oklahoma City raise its first NBA championship banner with a team that a lot of people are liking to be the biggest threat to OKC in the West. And yet on top of the fact that the Nuggets did open the season last year with OKC, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the Nuggets not being on opening night. I would have preferred it, but I get it. They will be part of the first Thursday of the NBA season because it has been revealed. And remember, Thursday night NBA is now an ESPN product. They have the Inside the NBA guys. Nuggets will be playing the Warriors. Very, very late on Thursday night. That will be the Nuggets opener. And then they will be playing very, very late on Christmas. And there will be many more nights where the Nuggets are playing very, very late. Can't complain, though, because the complaint used to be, why aren't the Nuggets on national television? Well, they are. They're just in the later time slot. But we'll get that full NBA schedule. And so we know when they open. We know who they're playing on Christmas. When do the Sixers play the Nuggets? I think that's also Brooklyn. When is Michael Porter coming back? The Nuggets haven't been in a position for a while that a key player from a championship team, because they've only had one of them, comes back. So that'll be an interesting night. But you're looking at When do they play OKC? When do they play Embiid? Will Embiid show up for the game? When Michael Porter coming back to get his tribute video? And Minnesota, which we already know one Minnesota game. It's on Christmas. So that's coming out later this week. Speaking of former Nuggets, did you see that Carmelo Anthony mentioned that he thought he was going to LA and he was going to team up with Kobe? He said this. Obviously ended up in New York. What stuck out to me was the potential return. The Nuggets were going to get back Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum. I don't know if we could really say that the Nuggets trade of Carmelo Anthony was a win. I mean, I think that the Nuggets did better than could be expected by trading their best player, but I don't know is successful. But they did better. They did better than I think people expected them to after the Melo trade, in part because they got the Knicks to be the Knicks and to do something really foolish and basically give them their entire starting five, which with a great coach like George Karl, it's like, I think he in many ways preferred that team. Right? No egos. Gallinari, Mozgov, Raymond Felton, like all these guys, none of them had the cachet of Carmelo Anthony. None of them had the ego of Carmelo, and I think that's George Karl loved that. And it gave the Nuggets depth, and they were versatile, and they won a lot of games. They weren't a legitimate title threat, but they won a lot of games during the regular season. But part of the reason why they were able to be successful to some degree after they traded Carmelo was because of what they got back from the Knicks. Could you imagine if the return was Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum? Good Lord. That would have immediately, like, no, George Karl or any coach, Doug Moe's not winning with that team. You're going to remove Carmelo Anthony. And by the way, you traded Chauncey in that deal. Let's not forget that part of it. Did you have to trade Chauncey in this Laker proposed trade? I don't know. But let's say that they would have. Carmelo and Chauncey for Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom. Even if Chauncey stayed, Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum. Like, Lamar Odom's a good player. Don't get me wrong. But would I rather have Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum or like the entire Knicks starting five from that season? Yeah, I'd prefer Gallo and Mozgov and Raymond Felton. Nuggets dodged a bullet there. I don't know how that would have worked. How would that have gone over with Carmelo? Honestly. Because he went to New York, and for better or worse, he was the man there. He wouldn't be the man in LA. I don't know how that whole dynamic would have worked out, but almost a Laker. Wasn't a Laker. Better for the Nuggets that trade wasn't consummated. Couple of things before I go. First of all, I will be on KKTV 11 News tonight alongside Jessica Mendoza talking about the Broncos' first preseason game. So if you are so inclined, tune in tonight at 10 o'clock. And I will be, I think, I think the way that Jessica has it with me, the minute that I, at any point, I could be banished. Like if I don't do a good job, I won't be allowed back. So it keeps me motivated, and no, it's smart by her. It really is. But given that, as long as I hold up my end of the bargain, should be joining her regularly as she joins me on this show regularly. So that's tonight. That'll start tonight if you're interested. Speaking of things that you should be interested in, how about getting your life back? You're like, well, Ryan, what makes you say that? Well, if you're constantly feeling tired, you can't focus, you don't have any energy to do anything because of low testosterone, you're not making the most of your life, and you should be. That's why the folks at Low T Center want me to talk to you, because they have a way for you to get your life back. First things first, you go in and get the test. It's free. Test is free. Find out if it is low testosterone, then you're in the right place to get your treatment. And they have a variety of treatment options, including treatment that goes right to your house. But the most important thing, whether you go in the clinic or whether you're at home, all this other stuff, really what's most important is they are the experts in this. They are the best at what they do. And that's what matters the most. So if some of the things I just mentioned are describing you, I mean, isn't it worth just getting a test? If you're 40 or over, just get the test. Find out. Go to fixmylowt.com. One more time, that's fixmylowt.com. Get started with the Colorado Springs experts today, Low T Center. And by the way, most insurance is accepted, so don't let that be a barrier to you getting your life back to where you want it to be. Appreciate your patronage on this Tuesday. Enjoy your evening. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 3 right here on Extra Sports 1300.